Hi, everyone.
Salam. You're listening to Heart of the Matter, a podcast by Heart to Grow, a reproductive and gender justice organization working in Muslim communities and the older sibling you can trust.
We are your host. My name is Sabrine Mohammed.
And my name is Amatullah Salawa. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Today, we are with Dr. Haddi Ceesay, who's been in the Heart circles as a contractor, collaborator, employee, and a friend for over 10 years now. She is an OG. She's been in this field for such a long time. She is a social scientist specializing in sexual and reproductive health, gender-based violence, gender justice policy. She has completed her PhD in health sociology at City University of London, where her research examined sexual and reproductive health education policy for young people in the Gambia through post-colonial and feminist frameworks. Don't play with her. Dr. Ceesay currently works as a consultant to strengthen the integration of sexual reproductive health and gender-based violence interventions within the education and social protection programs, as well as supporting the implementation of the Sub-Saharan African Women's Demographic Dividend Project. Her work focuses on policy analysis, institutional reform, and the translation of gender equality commitments into operational strategies. Prior to this current project and consulting work, Dr. Ceesay managed the research for Heart and co-authored our book, The Sex Talk Book. During her time at Heart, she helped design and deliver culturally responsive training programs for professionals and young people. Dr. Ceesay also served as a principal investigator for the National Study on Sexual Violence in Muslim Communities. We are referred to in the Heart universe as the burden study. Welcome, Dr. Hadi Ceesay.
Wow, y'all, I can't believe that's on me.
That's all you.
You're that girl, Hadi. You're that girl. Mashallah,
I
mashallah.
guess, I guess. No, for real though, it's thank you all for having me. It's really great. So I'm really excited to be talking to you guys today.
Yes, we're so excited to have you and talk more about your career at heart, the stuff you do now. But before we get started, I want to have an icebreaker. So you guys know we're all Africans here and it's World Cup season, but none of our countries are in the World Cup. I don't know what happened. Somalia isn't here, Gambia isn't here, Nigeria was supposed to be here. Our invitation got lost in the mail. But in spite of that, what Cup team are y'all rooting for?
I I'm rooting for everybody black, like Issa Rae said. So that's where I'll stay. But I've always been a Brazil girl, grew up being a Brazil girl. I have my Brazil jersey, which I will wear. I also have my Somali jersey, which I will wear. I have actual beef with FIFA, like actual beef. Y'all could have let my homeboy, the Somali referee, in into the country. Y'all could have helped him. But you know what? We're not gonna talk about that.
But we can. I'm also very much everybody black, but definitely starting with Senegal. Gambia's not in it, but let me tell you right now, I have never ever in my life rooted for Gambia in any sports football tournament ever a day in my life. Ever. Senegalese to the core. Like I remember not this last AFCON, the one previous, I had like Senegal press on nails and I rep Senegal down. But that's also because I do have like my family roots are also from Senegal. So I'm very Senegambian. Outside of that, same as Sabrine, Brasilia all the time. I think it's also just because like I grew up watching Brazil. Um, the 2002 World Cup is like my first full-on memory of a sporting slash football event. And fun fact, like Brazil and just watching the Brazilian players is actually what like inspired my love for Real Madrid as a football team. So no
Ooh.
matter how, yeah, so no matter how down horrendous Brazil is doing, like that's still like my first love. Outside of Brazil, Haiti, of course, Haiti chérie. I'm just really happy about their story, and also FIFA was also on some BS with the jersey, and having them change the jersey because it's too political, which is dumb. But I'm really excited for Haiti to be back in the World Cup after 50 something years. So I would say Senegal, Brazil, Haiti, everybody black.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm definitely also rooting for everybody black, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm choosing France. Like, I'm sorry. I love the French players. I feel like
Ah,
watching the French.
colonizer, colonizer.
And mind you, I have beef with Kylian Mbappe right now, but continue.
Y'all just gonna have to arrest me or whatever. I'm sorry, y'all. I love France. Vive la France. On va ramener la coupe à la maison. I'm sorry, I'm French.
Not
That joke's
Vegedream.
down.
Not you quoting Vegedream.
I'm rooting for France, and but they have like a lot of black players. Like all the races are like, is this a French team or African team? Whatever, whatever. They have a lot of fun African players, and that's my criteria. I'm not like a real soccer fan. So France, whoever is going against Ghana, whoever is going against South Africa, those are who I'm rooting for. So I'm a simple girl.
Oh my God.
Let me add to that actually. My Everybody Black does not extend to South Africa.
Yeah, they got
Yes.
they cut.
Let's clarify that.
Yeah.
And outside of Everybody Black, once like it's like non-black teams playing, I also do go for the team with the most good-looking men. So
Yeah, I'm
that's
sorry.
another criteria that I have.
Yeah. I mean, even when it's like two black teams, I look at the roster of the players and I'm like, who is most attractive? At the end of the day, you gotta be an eye candy in order for you to get my sympathy. That's how it works around here. But yeah, I totally agree with I mean, you're Nigerian, so I'm gonna let you deal with the Ghana hate, but definitely South Africa, you guys. Today we experienced the opening and they were embarrassed by Mexico and mi gente Latina, baby. Okay. Okay, because South Africa, if you're really tapped in with African geopolitical conversations, you will understand why a lot of Africans are rooting for anybody but South Africa. But thank you so much for indulging us in this, opening icebreaker question, Hadi. Again, we're really super excited to have you here. I want to start by asking a question to tell us a little bit about yourself. How did your career begin, especially what initially brought you to the world of gender-based violence, sexual reproductive health programming, sex ed in general?
So I like to say that I am a researcher slash I got my PhD because I'm nosy. That's what it is. I've always been somebody that questions. Like I'm always have a question about something. I feel like I need to know at all times. And I was born in the Gambia and I didn't move to the US till I was like 13. And 0 to 13 is enough years and enough time to recognize like misogyny and to recognize like just so many things that were seemingly unfair in a lot of the ways that our communities, went about, but especially when it came to religion, right? Because there were so many things that they would tell you, oh, women can't do this, women can't do that. But like no one would tell you why, and no one would have those same like stipulations for men. So that is really like what started my curiosity because I'm like, that's a bit wild that like, Allah, my friend Allah, y'all are portraying my friend as a misogynist. That's crazy. So that really, again, it just really made me curious. And I always cared about like the plight of women and children in general. Like I always before when I started college, I actually was pre-med like a lot of Africans and Islamics. I was definitely pre-med, but then I took my first public health class and we had like this like sex ed, not sex ed, but like just an intro to like sex and sexuality. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is really, really cool. Like, where has this been my whole life? It's answering a lot of questions that I had that I didn't even know I had. And through that and just learning that, oh, there's actually like way more ways to serve women then that doesn't have to be like medicine. Because if I was going to go into medicine, it was going to be I was going to go into gynecology because that's how I felt that I could be of any kind of service. And so being in college and like learning a bunch of different things, it's like, oh, this is actually there are other paths that I can take that does not require me to take chemistry classes. And
Chemistry
that
took me out.
girl,
Chemistry took me
Organic
out.
chemistry. I got an F, organic
you
chem
made it.
2.
You made it to organic chem, sister. I was failing Chem 101. The struggles. I remember, I always say this story. When I was in high school, I did honors chem, and then like during my senior year I had free time because I had taken like all of my classes and everything. So I wanted to take the AP Chem class. The honors chem teacher was the same teacher as the AP Chem teacher. I signed up for the class. Miss Mamas pulled me to the side and was like, "Hey, you really struggled in honors. I don't know if you want to do this." And I was like, "You know what? You're right. I don't."
She pulled you for a chat. She said,
She did.
can I pull you for a chat? And, you know,
She did. She did. And I respected that because then I decided to just be like a fake TA for my literature teacher, which worked out because I love reading, I love writing, I love all the lit stuff. So it was great. But that also should have been my sign to like not pursue this medical route that I thought I wanted to pursue. But back to college, discovering that okay, I can actually like be of service in other ways. Because I like to say my life tagline is that I am in the service of like women and children. Like that's literally what I know how to do. It's the only thing I know how to do. If you trace my career, like that's all I've done. So yeah, so in college was doing the public health stuff, and then I met, well, not met because I was already friends with Mahreen in college. And so we were having this conversation, and she was telling me about this really cool organization. Because I was like, yeah, I'm really interested in like, sexual and reproductive health stuff, but like I'm struggling also with like the Islam aspect of it. Not because I think it's wrong in Islam, but also because I don't have the resources on like how I can feel like I can actually be in this more holistically with that faith lens. Because that was very, very important to me. Like I said, me and God are locked in besties. So, she was like, "Oh, I actually know of an organization because like she was already working with Heart at the time." I was like, "Okay, so let's put me in." And she introduced me to Nadia. I remember sending like Nadia this really long email because I was so nervous. I was like, I don't even know. But yeah, I sent Nadia this really long email, and Nadia was like, "Cool, like let's talk." And so, oh, prior to that, before I even met Nadia, I was already doing like gender-based violence work with FGM. So, Gambia has like a 75% FGM rate, but being that I'm from a ethnic group that doesn't practice it, I literally had no idea what FGM was until I moved to America. And then like I met someone who's doing advocacy around it. And like once I found out what it was about, I was like, oh, this is terrible. And why are we not doing something about it? And so a lot of like my advocacy work started off with like FGM and just gender-based violence in general. So FGM, child marriage, because all of these things again are interlinked and are just societally problematic, and they're all just it's terrible. It's terrible. We live in a world that hates women, and we're regressing even more, but that's a topic for another day or some point down the podcast. I'm rambling now. I'm gonna wrap it up. But yeah, so I met Nadia, and so I started creating like content for Heart. Like I did stuff around FGM, STIs, all of that. And as more work came along, just kept in contact. So like I said, I started as an intern and then became a contractor. And during my contractor phase is when we worked on the book. I remember like I had just like moved to writing up my thesis. And Nadia emailed me and was like, "Oh, hey, we're working on like this it was supposed to be like a mini booklet kind of situation. We're ready to publish it if you wanted to just like review it." That was supposed to be my job. I was supposed to review it. Next thing you know, it's like, what, 200 pages? Yeah, ended up we just kept going and going and going. And I like to say that I basically gave birth to twins, aka the sex talk book and my thesis because I was writing both at the same time. So,
Damn.
yeah, girl.
That's a lot. Oh
It
my
is, but
gosh.
I think I'm also just really, really blessed to be doing work that I love. And I know that it is 100%, like I said, it's a blessing and it is a privilege as well because like people will go their whole lives not knowing what their mission is and what they've been sent here to do. And I feel like I got a grasp of that like quite early on, thankfully because I'm nosy and I question. But like, so being able to like be very sure, because again, life is lives, and there's all these different things that happen at all times. But like, if there's one thing I know for sure, it's that, hey, like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. this work on like gender-based violence, this work on sexual and reproductive health, this work on like caring for the babies and the mommies and the women's and like all of the people that need to be cared for, like that is my path. And so being able to recognize it and also just having the ability and the space where it was nurtured, especially like through heart, knowing that like anytime you have an idea, it's not shut down. Like you have the possibility and the potential to explore so many things. And also having again, the religious aspect, which is super, super important to me, and having religious leaders like Dr. Asifa and like all these other people that you could learn from. It was great because again, not only am I nosy, I'm also argumentative. And I like telling men how wrong they are. And I like backing it up with science or like some kind of religious word. So, as much as like it's obviously great for like the personal and the career development and all of that, it was also great because I get to argue with people for a living.
I don't consider it arguing. It's called debate. Because when women do it, it's like you're arguing, but when men do it, it's debate. So you're actually debating. You're not arguing.
You know what? I might even take it a step further. I'm not doing either. I'm just telling men how wrong and loud they are.
You're educating. You're providing a
Educating with a
service.
side of, yeah, and also that's why I don't even do it as much anymore because I'm like, you're not paying me to you're not paying me to speak to you, and I don't really speak to men outside of like either it needs to have some kind of financial aspect to it, or I need to like you as a person, and that's limited. So because of that, I just don't do any of the arguing, debating aspect. Like I'm not giving these podcast bros ammunition at all.
I feel you. Like, believe
Like,
what you want to believe.
yeah, talk to yourself. Not my problem, babe.
No, yeah. I love that. I love hearing about your journey so much. Because I feel like when I started as an intern too, and I was emailing you guys and stuff, one of the things that really stuck out to me as an intern was like you could have like a lot of different ideas and it wasn't shut down. There's so many different alternative perspectives to things that like, kind of make you feel uncomfortable, but maybe you d never encountered another like opinion. So it's either like this opinion or like being like sacrilegious or something like that. So I love that. So I kind of want to talk more about like the aspect of your work in the Gambia and work on female genital mutilation. Like as you kind of touched upon, it is something that my some supporters is like seen as something that can be justified using Islam. And obviously by people who are against it, we also say like, no, this is actually not Islamic at all and things like that. Um, and I know like there's a lot of different considerations, the Gambia being like a majority Muslim country. So I want to learn more about like those experiences. What was it like advocating for that? Because, we have a lot of experience with this in the United States context, but like in a different context, what was that like? What was your experience? And I know you mentioned kind of things getting worse, and I saw like the recent bill, I think, kind of trying to roll back some of the gains. So I just wanted to hear a little bit more about that.
Fun fact, not so fun fact. My master's thesis was actually on FGM. So it was on FGM and well-being. And so it was a qualitative study and I interviewed girls and like asked, well, young women and asked them about their experiences and stuff like that. But all this to say, like when I was doing that, obviously I had to like do my literature review was like on the background of FGM and like how it came about and how it's like been traced to ancient Egypt from like 2000 plus years ago, pre the dawn of Islam, right? But then when I think about it, I also, one, we complicate Islam. We've been overcomplicating Islam from day zero, which is, again, just very wild to me. Like, you're talking about a religion that is one extremely social justice oriented. Like, the reason that, the Quraysh and all of them were having beef with the Prophet ﷺ is because he was trying to make the world a better place for the most marginalized, aka what Heart does. We center the most marginalized. But it's like, and you're talking about a religion where we have a very strict do no harm principle. FGM is a form of harm. Like there are zero, absolutely zero benefits to FGM. And also, again, you're talking about a religion that centers women's pleasure. Islam does not hide from that. Like Islam doesn't say, oh, you can't enjoy, sex, you can't orgasm, you can't do any of that. It doesn't. So if we're talking about women's pleasure and we're talking about do no harm, then how does FGM fit into that? Like in what category? It doesn't fall into any category at all that would make it Islamic in any capacity, right? And so for me, that's always been my biggest thing. But so when because the campaigns in Gambia around FGM have been ongoing for so long, but then in 2014, was it 2015? I think it was 2015 because I always get confused, not confused, but I was around for both like the banning of FGM and the banning of child marriage, and they happened consecutively, and they were both in like 2015 and 2016 or something like that. A lot of the advocacy that we did going into the communities and stuff like that, we would have like actual like imams and other, religious leaders that would also go in because one of the big, like you said, Gambia is like a 90 something Muslim majority country. And I have a lot to say about the way we practice, but again, that's for another episode. We know I have thoughts. I consistently have thoughts. I'm a thought daughter. So
And we love you for it.
love y'all.
We're
But
all thought daughters at heart. Yeah.
no, no, I love it for us for real. But a lot of there's a lack of misunderstanding, but also it's so easy to just have like one old man with a beard come and tell you that Islam says this, and then there's no questioning. So that was the thing of like we're finding out that there was not any questioning, and also because of this culture of silence that we have around women's pain, women were not directly talking about the impact of FGM on their, on themselves and just the lasting impacts. So we saw that going into communities, one going with religious leaders, but also talking to bringing in health personnel like doctors and nurses and stuff, who would then talk about like all these harms surrounding FGM. You would see people go, "Oh, I didn't know that this and this was happening to my daughter. I didn't know that this was causing, all of these problems, and I didn't know that like this is not mandated Islamically." And so that I feel like all of those things made a difference. Um, which again was just giving women a voice and like giving them the ability to like actually explain why this and this is going, yeah. So and this was under like our former president, the dictator, Yajame. And he left in 2016, 2017, somewhere around that. This is like a decade ago. That's crazy. But so when he left, the new president did not really say much about the FGM law, right? And so people were now moving under the assumption that this was Jammeh's law. This wasn't like something that carried over, which obviously would embolden people to do whatever it is that they wanted. And even with the law passed, they were not really taking any kind of like legal measures to protect the girls. Like you would see cases of FGM happening, and then like you're seeing them fine people like $1,000, and that's it. Like versus not even $1,000, like less than that, and like no jail time, none of that. And so obviously, if people are seeing that they're not going to have any kind of repercussions from continuing it, they would still do it. And even with this continuation, like I remember one of the things that struck me the most, and this was a long time ago, but basically, we were doing like some grassroots work, and there was this community was talking about how like even though now that they know that it's not Islamic and all those different things, they have to continue doing the FGM because if they don't do FGM, then the girls are going to go and get pregnant. So they were using it as a way to try and curb early pregnancy, which actually made me go, hmm. And
It it
that's
didn't
actually
stop. It didn't stop women before, and it will never stop.
top. No, it won't. But it's also this lack of like comprehensive sexuality education, which inspired my PhD thesis. And that's why I looked into sexual and reproductive health education policy and whether or not it was covering all of that, because it made me realize, okay, yes, we're doing all this GBV work, but then where is like the foundation of the education that like communities actually need to be able to know like what's right, what's wrong, what's harmful, and what's not harmful. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question because I feel like I just kept going.
You did. And I think it's really important to just highlight that like it's hard when we're doing the culture narrative shift because in a lot of like m communities in general, but when we're thinking about like Muslim majority countries or Muslim majority communities, like you said, you just need a man with a beard to say whatever he want, and people are gonna believe it because one, there's lack of education, right? People are not really educated on Islam, and they're not educated on the expansiveness of Islam. And secondly, like it- it's just thinking about how in a lot of cultures women are subjugated to harm because of just a bearded old man who wants to have control, who wants to have access to young people's bodies. And it really makes me really sad because, my country of origin struggles with the same issues of like child marriage. There's so many times we tried to pass as like of last fall, they were debating about child marriage. Grown men want to marry children, right? And they're okay with FGM and all of that. Uh, but I want to kind of transition to kind of thinking about your journey at Heart Hottie. If anyone checks our website or our social media presence or anything we have published, you'll see Hottie's journey from like the early videos, Heart to Heart, that are published on YouTube, to the research work that she spearheaded with the Heart team, like the Burden study, the sex talk book research and the actual writing, and most recently, the Sex Talk Book Club research that came out this year. I kind of want to talk a little bit about kind of what kept you around for the last 10-year plus, and just if you want to tell us some of your favorite projects that you worked on, either independently or, with heart.
My favorite is gonna be hard, but I'll answer that. But before that, I just wanna funny, not so funny, but like with the FGM stuff, right? So my stepdad is an imam, and he's like anti-FGM, and like he's one of the very vocal people about it. He doesn't have a beard, so people on Facebook were calling him a sellout to the West. And so the Gambia's local currency is Dalasi. They were calling him Abu Dalasi because they were sure that he was getting paid.
Oh my God. La ilaha illallah. What?
I'm not gonna lie to y'all, it was very funny. Like I love him so much, but I was dying. I said, not they coming for my stepdaddy, y'all.
Can
It
we
was
can
very
we
funny.
take some of those fake beers that they were selling on
We'll
what
get
was
him
it?
a Timo beard. We'll dye it orange, you know?
Oh, I was dead. I
We'll
still
look him
think
up.
about this. Like, I'm sorry, Abu Dalasi is one of the it's like such a great slander name. Like, what? But outside of that, um, what's kept me at heart? Everything. Again, it's like work that I've always cared about. Like I always told Nadia, like this is even before I was full time. I'm like, hard work doesn't feel like work. Like I've said it like all the time. I'm like, this doesn't feel like work at all. Like this is not anything that's stressing me out. If anything, like it's an opportunity to learn. And I'm always like in the space of learning. Like I remember a couple years ago, Nadia had gotten us all like keychain gifts, and mine had elm written on it, which is knowledge, because of just my desire to always absorb more knowledge. And I feel like art is a space that like I could do that and I can get creative with how I explore knowledge and all of that. So because of that, I would say that definitely the sex talk book was my favorite project because of the creative freedom I had to learn. And not just the creative freedom to learn, but also learning Islamic law specifically. So I was just able to like get my head in the books and read so much, especially when it came to like divorce, when it came to your mahr and all of those, different aspects again that we don't talk about a lot. It was so cool to me. Like I always tell Sabrina that if I ever do make it to law school, like one of the things that I would specialize in is probably like Islamic law, like Islamic feminist law. And that's because of the work that I've done at heart and because of like the people that I've come across who've made it so accessible and who's made it feel like, okay, like this is something that like you can do as a woman and then give that back to other women and your community.
I feel you. And like, yeah, I was at a Dr. Asifa training, not even like the one that we all watched, but like some talk that she was giving. I was like, oh my gosh, Nadia, this is so interesting. This is so cool. And also, I would not really have read about this if it wasn't for Heart, because I was reading about Islam, but it was mostly limited to like West African Islam and things that we were doing. So to read it in the context that's actually the most relevant to me, even though I'm in denial, was actually great. Um,
Just so you know, I'm obsessed with Dr. Asifa. This is like a well-known fact at heart.
Yeah.
Like I am obsessed. I love her so much.
Yeah, and you need to go get that law degree. I don't want to be silly, but when you said you like knowledge and you keep your head in them books, all I thought about was High School Musical. Get your head in the game. That's all I thought about. I am so sorry, you guys.
You're so
I'm
unserious.
such a millennial. I'm so sorry. Um, but yeah,
I'm so dead. Speaking of the sex talk, like from our beginning, obviously everyone knows Heart has been providing sex ed to Muslim communities nationwide and also low-key worldwide because we be getting like international people following us and also buying the book. But in 2022, that was the first time that you guys like wrote and published a comprehensive and inclusive sex ed resource. Before there was like a guide, I think talking about your sex, talking about like sex with your kids, different resources for specific like conditions, but not like a really comprehensive, thick book. So my question is, what made you guys think of writing a book? I know it was supposed to be a pamphlet. I know Classic Heart to start some small and then it snowballs into something big. But tell us about the process of like coming up with a book and writing it and publishing it and everything.
Also, not to be childish like Sabrine, but when you said she thick, like it's thick, I was thinking in my head like,
I'm
yeah,
so
yeah, she
dead.
thick.
I just knew
Sorry,
it was gonna be silly
guys.
with the three of us together.
I'm trying so hard to be appropriate here. It's so hard.
we're so
Um,
unreal. This is we gotta
we
be
need to grow
serious.
up. But yeah, no, I think for me, because I just remember again, research brain is always on, and with research brain, there's always going to be citations about something and all that. So like again, I was supposed to edit, but also like add, the few citations here and there. But like with everything you add, you're like, oh, there's like so much more body of information that's available. So why don't we add that? And so that's how we ended up like separating it into like all these different chapters and just like trying to, again, as a resource, but also connecting people to the scholarship that they would not necessarily have access to. So for me, that was like a really, really, really big thing. And it was a big thing for Nadia and Navila as well. But like it just made so much sense to if we're again centering the most marginalized, those marginalized also include voices of like scholars that you won't necessarily hear from. Because we know these Dawah bros or these, you know what, let me stop. I was gonna say something terribly inappropriate. I'm so glad I caught myself. But these Dawah bros, let's just keep it to the Dawah bros. They have so much space to spew
Too much
all,
space.
girl.
They're
I can't wait to
taking
be the president
they're taking over our like intercom services at this point. Like they own
everywhere.
they're everywhere I look.
Like, and y'all know I'm a little Islamophobic, but if I'm president, these Islam bros, oh, bottom of the jail cell. You're trying to buy a podcast, and your name is like a Muslim name. You got a little Muhammad, a little Ibrahim going on. Denied.
Bye
No
bye.
mic for you.
You will be going through extra screening. I'm sorry, it's random.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
What did
Like I
NSYNC say? Bye bye bye.
Bye bye. Exactly. Like I saw this on TikTok yesterday about like this guy on a podcast, and he was talking about how having intercourse and the woman is on top basically
I
emasculates the
saw
man.
that. I heard that. And I was like, what are y'all even
I
talking
was
about at
in
this
What?
point?
shock.
No,
I was in shock.
you
I'm
have to
gonna send
send
it to
that
you,
to me.
Sabrina.
What?
Yeah, it was basically like because men are supposed to be on top during sex, so if a woman is on top, then like that means that like a man is feminine and like it's emasculating him. Yeah, girl.
I think we have lost the plot, Soprano.
In
Like,
my regime, in my regime as president of the world, these things would not be happening. And I know how to be a dictator. I come from a country that had a dictator from the year I was born. I was literally born into dictatorship. I know how to do it, and I'm gonna do it right.
listen,
Vote for
between
me.
between the three of us, we
Between the three of our countries, you'd say less. Please say
say
less.
less. They should give
The,
us the power to run the world.
no, seriously. Seriously, this is my pitch. If you want to see an end to the Dollar Bros and the Podcast Bros, vote for me.
Vote for her. And guess what? You'll keep winning every single election like the Cameroon and
Yeah.
like Paul Biya. So
And that's the thing,
we'll make sure of it.
because if you don't vote for me, you're in jail. So it's okay. Just get me in power, and I'm never
Mhm.
getting out.
This also reminds me of Mugabe. That man won every election.
When you love your country so much that you don't want to like let it go and like let it fall in the hands of someone who would be corrupt, that's gonna be Dr. Hadi, inshallah. Like, just hold on.
Like, and that's the thing. I'm like, I'm not scared of y'all. Like, I'll do whatever I want. But whatever I want, though, again, is in the business of protecting women and children.
Yes.
We
And
always
go
got to clarify that.
yes. And going back to the business of protecting women and children, I want to ask about how, like, the sex talk is incredibly nuanced, sex education resource that really accounts for, like, diversity in genders within, like, the Islamic, you know, perspective. Also, diversity in faith practices, right? The book doesn't say, like, this is specifically for Sunni audience or Shia audience or whatever. And also a diversity in sexualities that are, like, mentioned and talked about. And I know it wasn't easy writing all of that. Um, what was the perception when the book was published, and how do you think people received it in general?
This is like 4 years ago, is basically 2 decades ago. So I'm trying to wrap my brain back. But we did receive like definitely a bunch of positive comments. So like, and even again, it's like sex talk for Muslims, but non-Muslims were also reading it, and they were also able to like, especially because like it's part workbook. So they were able to, with the Rida framework and with like all of these other like aspects that got you to think, it was also a way to just like figure out what is a healthy relationship for you. But I do know that, like with everything Heart does, it's ahead of its time. For some circles, for some Muslim circles. And it is always going to look like we're doing blasphemy by sharing information that's already available. So I'm not going to focus too much on those negatives because, again, I am a dictator and they don't matter to me. They don't count. What I will say is that some of the reviews I remember like from the book club is like as much as we spoke about like the gender expansive stuff, it could have been more expansive. And that is a limitation on our end as three cis women, who wrote this. Like, yes, there was a queer person on board, but that doesn't mean that they also are the person that knows like all of the information and everything about queerness in Islam. So I always think about like if there had to be another edition of the book, it would be like really great to like have it more grounded in that and just that kind of like gender expansive thinking and like more stuff around like queerness in Islam, that again would not be necessarily readily available, that would make Muslims who are marginalized less marginalized. Like this book, yes, it's like it again for a straight woman, it's great. Um, but like I feel like it's like a knock on the door and it could be something that we could open into a lot, into a lot more. So this is just like a gentle critique that stood out to me that like made me go, yeah, like as much as we're thinking, we're not thinking enough and we're not thinking in all the places that we could think from.
Yeah, I mean, I resonate with that as well as someone who was around during that time. It's also a little bit blurry for me 4 years ago, but I remember that piece of like, oh, this is great, book, but also thinking about the next iteration of it, what it would look like, who would include, what are the other, like, who are the other authors that would be on to the team to kind of like bring a different perspective and a nuance. To think about some of the feedback that you got from the Sex Talk book clubs and the book leads as somebody who was leading that work, how do you think the book club experiences kind of shaped, you know, what we're trying to accomplish at heart, which is like interacting with the younger people and kind of us being in community with younger folks and co-creating, co-learning? How do you think that shaped, what were you trying to accomplish with the book in general and as an author?
Also, we're in June, so happy Pride Month to all my sexuals. Love you all. But outside of that, I think what, especially just with the book club and like interacting with the leads and everything, the sentence that came to my head is we're all in this together. Or yeah, we're all alone in this together actually, because it's like you think you're alone in like this experience of like not knowing your body, not knowing like all these, Islamic sexuality related things. And it's just crazy that I feel like as Muslim youth, we kind of all had 90 something percent of us had the same experiences growing up.
Yep.
And
Keep your legs closed, don't talk to boys,
yeah,
and
that's it.
when you get married, you'll just figure things out. I think
You
that's
kiss
a
you kiss a boy, you get pregnant,
yeah.
and you're going to hell. Those were the things that we were taught, and that was it. So, as much as I'm like what, maybe 5, 6 years older than the book club leads, maybe, even though they were trying to like I was giving auntie though, because I was falling asleep doing like certain stuff and I was being bossy. So that aged me a little bit more. But it's just interesting um realizing how lucky I was to have heart so early because like I met like the heart team slash Nadia when I was, I don't know, 20, 21 maybe. And that was still young compared to, you know, for so some of the leads, like they were still in their early 20s, but like older than that. And so for me, it wasn't just like meeting Nadia that young, but also like having that space to explore what a lot of things meant that young. It was great, but it also made me a little sad that I'm like, dang, I wish I had this resource earlier. So yeah, so that is kind of what I remember just feeling, but it was also really great again hearing the experiences and realizing, dang, we really all live the same life. Like it's a universal experience and we need more Muslim support groups, y'all. We really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say low key being at heart makes you kind of forget like where the general knowledge is sometimes, like even around things like we think are basic like birth control or like when exactly can you get pregnant, just different basic things like that. And I'm like, wait, guys, I thought we were all on the same page. Maybe because I was like my mom was more open about these type of things. But then also on my own, like me and my sister would go like kids.gov and like read about like puberty and things like that, or had like these little Muslim girl books or whatever that we would read and things like that. Um, but obviously, even me, sometimes I'm shocked that I don't know certain things, and I'm like, wait, this is my job, so I need to get it together. So that's so real. But one thing I did want to ask before we move on was like, were there any experiences that you had while you were in Gambia and like promoting sex ed there that kind of translated to um some of the work you did at Heart?
Not sure because I feel like it was all, again, I think because one, like I said, I've always been nosy, but I've also always been somebody that's like just willing to say what's on my mind and like act on how I feel versus like what is expected of me. So, it didn't, I like outside of the FGM stuff, if anything, I feel like the more knowledge I got at heart emboldened me to do the work I did in Gambia and not the other way around because I remember when I was fully doing like the heart to hearts, like the one that we did on, I think it was on STIs. I don't know, one of them was on Facebook at some point and I was off Facebook at that time, so I had no idea what was going on. And I remember my mom calling me and was like, "Oh, I saw this video of yours on the internet." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And she was like, but like next time can you not use like, basically she was saying for me to not say penis and vagina. And I was like, "No." I will not stop using those terminologies. And she was
His
like, "Oh,
PP, her ha hoo ha, whatever, like
yeah."
what's her bit.
And so I was like, "No, I won't." And she was like, "Oh, okay." And she hung up the phone. Fast forward over a decade now, and my mom's literally like the director of like population, and they all their work is on like gender and like gender-based violence and like demographic dividend stuff. And so it's so interesting like seeing her growth with how like shy she was to like discuss these things, but like me being like very much like, no, like this is the work I'm doing and I won't be quiet about it. Like basically help her in terms of like the work that she does. But yeah, outside of that, like I said, all the work that I do in Gambia, all the stuff that I talk about, At no point did I feel like I needed to not talk about it because I was like, who gonna beat me? Who gonna beat me up? That's
Who's gonna check you?
who gonna check me? Nobody. Because like you can't shame the shameless is basically how I put it. If I'm not gonna be shamed by anything, and if you try and like say that what I'm doing and it's like un-Islamic, I'm gonna ask you like where are the receipts?
Yeah.
So where are we gonna go from there? Nowhere.
Yeah. You know, your thing about your mom's conversation and like your mom calling you a decade ago to like not use, anatomically correct names for body parts, it really makes me think of like a prevalent issue that we have in like sex education in Muslim communities where it's like you're not naming body parts, you're just like going into abstinence, which is, it's and it's not like hard is like, oh, don't teach abstinence. Like we, it could be something that, you know, people can explore and abstinence education is, something that a lot of communities subscribe to. But at the same time, I think the problem is not naming body parts, not educating people on functions of body parts, not educating people on reproductive health, sexual health, right? And when we're thinking about like the other piece of the work that you do and Heart does, the gender-based violence aspect of it, right? When we're not empowering young people to know about their body and like certain functions, that's how abuse kind of continues because they're unable to speak up, they're unable to like voice that's, they're experiencing harm sexually, so it just made me think of that piece where it's like we really need to start naming for our children. We really need to start naming things for our young people. And we're not asking parents to be like experts in sexual health education or reproductive health education. There are resources out there, but I think just starting with the names and familiarizing young people with those words and not to be shy about it is how you start this conversation.
Yeah, and I was,
Absolutely. Oh, sorry,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if there's one thing about sexual health education, the actual comprehensive stuff will make you abstinent so quickly.
I'm
'Cause
so dead.
nothing will make you
No,
abstain like actually knowing
I agree.
everything.
I agree. And there's actually data to prove that in like certain European education system where they the early onset of
Sexual debut, yeah.
sexual debut is much older than like North America, especially in like the US context and Mexico, right? Thinking about like
Mhm.
how the US is very like white supremacist Christian hold when it comes to sex education and similar things are happening in the Mexican spaces when it comes to education. So yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what people get wrong. They think that like, oh, that's gonna put them at risk. They're gonna be freaked out. They're gonna be like having orgies. They're just gonna go wild. They're crazy just because they know like how things are. But then when you look at the data, it's actually like, no, the kids are not doing it. This generation really, when I was updating some of our resources on like sex ed, like I had to change some of the language because teens really aren't having sex. And that's like for a lot of reasons, but one of them is like having better sex ed and having better access to like preventative measures and things like that. So I agree with what you said, Sabrine. I feel like not having that language is a big issue. And then also having a lot of shame around discussions like this will make you feel like embarrassed to talk to your parents. And then like if something is happening, then you probably won't know who to turn to or you won't turn to anyone at all. So that made me want to think of our burden study. So the burden of sexual violence in the Muslim community, that you guys surveyed Muslims in the United States and also Canada, to talk about like their experiences with sexual violence, sexual assault. So I wanted to know like how did that study come about and what were some of like the key findings when it came to running that survey?
Girl, if I don't remember something from 4 years ago, what makes you remember? What makes you think I'm gonna remember something from a decade?
Throwback Thursday.
Like how this is during COVID, and you know that was like two lifetimes ago.
This is 2020.
No. Well, I'll say something that was interesting to me that we talked
Good. I
about with the
think
last person. Yeah,
jog
let
my
me jog your memory
memory.
of
Thank
it.
you. Appreciate that.
Let me start it. No, yeah, I was gonna say like one of the things that a lot of people like mention and then also maybe some people have issue with is like the very high like burden. And we talk about it being like a self-selected study and things like that. But I also feel like kind of we low-key assume that like Muslims won't be the type of people to go through these types of things, because like a lot of us like come from cultures or spaces where modesty is emphasized. We're really ashamed to like talk about these things. Um, and most people, you're told to like save it until marriage, and then it's like, okay, so how could this happen? And then also like the thing about like the perpetrators that also gets hard into a lot of like controversies that like how could someone so pure like an imam or someone like this or like a community leader be the perpetrator of sexual violence because we kind of create this boogeyman. I was watching something on TikTok actually that was talking about like the way we view rape. And so we kind of think of it like a dark alley and then some strange guy and he lures her in and then they're like no one, it's in the shadows and things like that. But sometimes it can happen in your house, like in your masjid with your close friends and family and
It's
not like
not
some strange guy.
sometimes, it's 90 something percent of the time.
Exactly. Like most times it is someone you know, and I feel like that's something that people don't get about it or like they're like, why? And like I feel like it can be hard to reconcile like this person's status in the community with also the things they do. So I was kind of interested in things like that, like the findings of the study, what are the type of education or educational resources that came out of the study, how you guys were thinking of like, we're still disseminating the study's results, but like what you guys were thinking in that moment as you were coming up with like the questions, but then also seeing the really high results.
So I'm gonna start with the results because I initially used to think like it was the self-selective bias and stuff like that. But no, if anything, sexual violence in itself globally is underreported. Like if it's underreported amongst like, everyday people, it's definitely 10 times more underreported in the Muslim community. And if you hear anything that the Dawah bros are saying on the podcast, that should remind you that it is extremely underreported. Because, like, for communities that are so pure and chaste and don't touch anybody, like, y'all talk about sex a whole lot.
We're
And
obsessed, like
yeah,
obsessed.
and if you're let me rephrase this because I was also about to be really, let me see, how do I? No, because I was gonna say, right, if like you're saying that you're not having any kind of sexual relations at all, um, okay, you know what, you guys, you can cut this part, but I'm gonna say it because like my brain just needs, my brain is going there. If you're not doing it with the boys, then you're clearly not doing it with the willing girls. So you're sexually abusing people. Like a lot of them are
Mic
sexual
drop.
abusers. Yeah, so a lot of them are sexual abusers, and it's not, again, in any community that you go to, the like I know in Gambia, like there's so many times where like people don't leave their children alone with like certain imams and certain religious leaders because like they know that they're doing certain things to children. And so it's like we need to stop pretending that it's not there. And we need to stop acting like, oh, just because like we've been told to like be chaste and like, not have any kind of sexual relations till marriage, that doesn't mean that that's happening. Like at all. It's the opposite because if you're not having any kind of sexuality education, like if you're not putting yourself in the space that you need to know like your body and to know what's going on and all of these different things, you're going to run into people. And we were having this conversation before we started recording, but like you're having people that are not viewing other people as human. So yeah, they're going to assault somebody that they don't view as somebody that is as an equal to them. And that's what goes on consistently in our communities because when you're treating women or just anyone that's marginalized as someone that's like that you don't respect, that you don't see as a full person, you're going to abuse them. It's either going to be sexual, emotional, any other kind of abuse, it's going to happen. So all this to say, I used to think that the numbers may have, are just high, but they're not high enough in my opinion in terms of like reporting because any kind of research paper you see will tell you that like the stats are consistently like below what they need to be. Because even the whole 1 in 3, women experience GBV, it's higher than that. Because guess what? Another thing that had come up, you see now my brain is refreshed, was around even defining sexual violence. Because we had to be careful around that in terms of like people may not know that they were sexually assaulted. People may not know that they're survivors of sexual violence at all. Because like once you start breaking it down to like these are the different things that could count as sexual violence, it's like you're gonna have this reaction of like, oh crap, I was sexually assaulted, or oh crap, yeah, this happened, but it wasn't at that level of, having to call it like sexual violence. Like this is just a normal thing in our communities. And I think that was one of those things that stuck out to me a lot.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why, I'm sorry. I was gonna say I really like the spectrum of sexual violence because not trying to say that one experience is more impactful than another, but I think it really shows that like, oh, this is like it might not be rape, but it's coercion and it's definitely not healthy. And I was seeing someone on TikTok and she wasn't Muslim or anything, but she was talking about like how like all her sexual partners had been like she was peer pressured into them. Like
Mhm.
using that language, but basically like every single sexual encounter that she had was like coercive. And I was like, girl, that's like that is not okay. And that is like sexual assault and that is sexual violence. But like if we're only like counting capital R rape, then we're missing so many cases of like unhealthy behaviors. And that also normalizes it. I remember seeing someone who this guy and it was like a Nigerian guy and like this girl was like calling him out for sexual assault. And he was like, "No, I didn't sexual assault you." And he posted like screenshots of being like her being like, "Oh, did you touch me?" or something like that. And he was basically like admitting, "Yeah, I did, and you were drunk and you didn't know and you didn't want to." But like that's not rape though, because like, I would
Textbook definition of rape.
exactly. And I was like, guys, like you're so like I don't even know how to say, it, but like you're so like ignorant to the point where you will like publicly admit to doing something because you just refuse to see it as what it is and like so brainwashed by like patriarchy and like having ownership of women's bodies and these type of harmful ideas that are peddled by like Dawah bros, which do directly lead to sexual violence and harm. So I'm glad you called that out because it's like if we're all always talking about like sexual violence being underreported and like having these narrow definitions for whatever reason, then like why would it be surprising that ours that's more expansive is going to have like higher numbers. So,
Like, I
Yeah.
don't know a single woman. Oh, sorry to cut you, Serene. But I literally do not know a single woman that does not have some kind of a story around like some kind of sexual assault or like just, I know we tend to refer to as like just having uncomfortable like interactions with men, but no, like it's sexual violence and it's sexual assault in one way or another. Like, and it's consistent.
Yeah. I mean, it's going back to the spectrum thing that Amatolas was mentioning, right? Assault, when people think about like sexual violence, they just think of like you said, capital letters, capital word, rape, but they don't think about like making you uncomfortable at work, making you uncomfortable saying like, commenting on your body, commenting on things that you're wearing, right? All the things that leads to it's like a spectrum, right? Locker room talk to all the way like actually committing, a crime and sexually assaulting and violating somebody. So yeah, it's just and to think about the piece where you said in a lot of research studies, they always mention how it's underreported. Yeah, it is underreported because a lot, especially within when we think about religious communities and communities where there's a lot of shame and stigma, especially for people who are like, I'm just going to speak for like Muslim communities. Sometimes, like, the first time a woman has sex with her husband is an act of violence, especially if you know, there isn't like proper education, they don't know what's happening. If she's young and there's the age dynamic, right? So, um, yeah, it's a it's a bigger problem than we would like to even. I mean, Heart is doing the work and people like you are in the community doing the work, but I believe that our data might not fit what like national US statistics, right? And our data for the burden study is like very selective and smaller in number, but I believe that the numbers we got are true. Like I believe that over 90% of women experienced it, over this amount of men and gender. expansive people experience. I believe that, and that's the hard thing to reconcile within some communities. But kind of shifting the conversation um, in a really a bittersweet moment. You left Heart in 2025 to work on like consulting projects, especially around gender justice projects. Um, so we want to kind of talk a little bit about how that's been for you. What are the things that you do day to day? And kind of, give us a quick summary of some of the projects that you're holding right now because you are an international gender justice policy baddie, and people need to know.
Girl, my day to day is never the same. Every day you wake up and there's something else. I just remembered that there was something else supposed to be doing, but they'll be all right. Um, but no, so I left Heart in 2025. It was kind of quick, actually. It was like what I was going on sick leave. Like I think I was supposed to leave for sick leave like 3 weeks earlier, and then like I got this offer for a fellowship, and it was just like, oh, like this is a really good opportunity to not turn down. Heart is home, all the good stuff. But I basically have been, like we've been saying, doing a lot of work on like sexual and reproductive health at more of like the technical, international level. So for the first few months at my job, it was mainly like advisory level stuff. Basically like teams from like other countries and other departments would come in to ask like, okay, how can I make this more gender expansive? Like, how can I make this project more, we're basically like supposed to be building schools. And they were like, okay, like how do we make like building this school more gender, just basically how do we get ensure that this space is safe for the girlies to get to school. And so like thinking through all of that in terms of like, okay, do they have transport to get to school? How safe is it? Because we know that transport is like one of the ways in which like girls get assaulted. Like that's one of the ways in which reasons they won't go to school because like the journey to school is unsafe. Um, but yeah, so I did that for quite a bit, and it was really fun. But then sometime last year, I started working more regionally and operationally. So I work on this project, the Sweat Plus project. So it's like Sub-Saharan Africans, women's empowerment demographic dividend. I say this every day and I still get stuck with it. But basically, it's like working in countries in West and Central Africa around girls and women's empowerment. There's a few components to the project, but I work on like two main components, which is around the first one that I did actually, well, it was around more of the policy work, right? Policy and legal. Law school gonna see me at some point, y'all. Um,
Inshallah, Esquire.
Yes, that
I'm
JD is
like,
coming.
seriously, that JD PhD gonna hit so crazy. One of the reports I worked on was like this gender legal framework, basically around like working towards like legal and policy environments for women and girls in sub-Saharan Africa, which is really cool. And then I've also just been doing more work in Gambia. It's like every time I try to escape that country, it's like, nah, come back.
I'm so dead. It's not done with you.
No, I'm like, take the hint, bro. Like, I don't like you like that.
Leave her
But
alone.
literally leave me alone. But it's been interesting. Like when I say like no day is like the one before, is that I've been doing like more financial inclusion work around like um grant making and young girls, giving girls access to capital and things that I knew nothing about that like every day now I gotta rack my brain around solutions to problems that I never knew existed. Because I've been in my nice little SRH GBV bubble for over a decade. And now, mind you, I can't even count. Let's start from there. Mind you,
Repeat
like
after me. One, two.
Uno, that's what I got. Like I'm doing like tutoring in DC, right? And the organization that I'm tutoring with, like the lady asked me like, what would you feel comfortable when tutoring the kids in? And I said, girl, everything but numbers. I don't want to see a single number. If they need help reading, sure. If it's a little algebra, one plus one, keep me out of it because I don't even think I know one plus one. So, but all that to say, I am being challenged, y'all. But in a good way, because again, I love learning and all of that. So it's just been like doing doing more operations work and at such a bigger scale with like much bigger budgets. Like I'm handling money that I didn't even know existed. So
Like countries GDP type of money. Okay.
yeah, I'm working with countries, I'm working with ministries and all of that. So and again for someone who I love the reading and the writing and the focusing on the research, but now having to like build my people skills, very funny, but also very fun. So I am enjoying the challenge of it all. But like some days I was literally exploring. I'm always ADHD, y'all. I'm always going back to stories. But last year I remember I was so stressed out of my job. I was at my desk crying because of how stressed I was. But again, I'm easy, unfortunately, because the next day they catered lunch and I was like, you know what?
I'm so dead.
I can do this. Girl, do you know the cost of seafood? And they had shrimp.
You know what? Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
like the sandwich and chips combo.
No.
Yeah.
It was
Bougiana.
like it was fun, like, and we had the desserts and all that. And I was like, you know what? I can deal with this. I can handle it. It ain't no problem.
Yeah. Free food used to get me when I was in academic spaces. I would be worked like a dog doing field work,
No,
and then they would
I'm gonna
cater
do
for
it.
us once a quarter. And that used to get me like, oh,
I will take it. I will take it. So even with the stress, like obviously again, there's benefits because I'm learning, but there's also benefits because there's food. And recently, I think the so we knew about this because I was in Gambia a few months ago and we had like this summit forum. It was like this First Ladies Forum on gender-based violence. So convening first ladies and like ministers and stuff from like a lot of the countries that we're working in. And I was like one of the co-focal points for the entire event. So that was insane for the lack of a better word, but it was also like really cool seeing what you can handle that you didn't know that you could actually handle and also enjoying it because again, like I say, I like to run away from the people aspect, but then like realizing I'm actually really good at like this institutional back and forth and this liaising and like just talking to people. I don't like it, but I do it and I'm not bad at it.
okay, community liaison. Um, we love that title. I think a community liaison. Every work needs a community liaison. Um,
No, yeah, that sounds so exciting, mashallah. And like you said, like your work will bring out things that you didn't even know was into you. So I'm so glad you had that experience. I love a woman who can make shit happen. So I love that for you. So it was great talking to you, great catching up. For listeners, if you guys didn't know, Heidi and Sabrine were like my supervisors kind of when I first started interning at Hart. So it's a full circle moment for me. I mean, these are the type of conversations we used to
Babies grow
have.
up so fast.
I
they
know. Can you
do.
imagine?
Oh my
I'm
God.
supervising an intern this summer. I was like,
Oh my
no,
God. Oh,
I'm
so I'm
too
gonna cry.
young.
What do you mean you're supervising someone? I literally
I
will
had to.
cry.
I had to do it. I had to do it. It
Like
had to
I
happen.
remember y'all like when Amatola sent that email and I was like straight up like, yeah, we're doing this. Like we were all solo capacity, but we were like, no, this is happening. And I used you as my success story, by the way, just so you know, because I'm just so
Yay!
proud. Like you have no idea how proud I am. And so it's really great like just seeing you here and being in the circle with you.
No, yes, alhamdulillah. I'm so grateful. So when Sabrina was like, we having Hadi on, I was like, look, I don't even need to do, we don't really need to do any prep for real. Let's just whip something up. But yeah, before we go, I want to ask, what are your summer hot girl recs? Last guest gave us like book recs, music recs. I don't know if you have like any like skincare recs, anything, food recs. What are you recommending for the summer?
My recommendation is watch the World Cup.
We're on
That's
that.
that's what I got for y'all. Um, I'm trying to be outside this summer. I have a few trips planned, so travel before they decide to lock the borders and like we're stuck in
Honestly.
Los
Oh my
Estados
God.
Unidos.
Oh my God, I'm scared.
So that's the thing. But for summer, so I do keep my skincare in the summer really light. So winter is like when I do like the tread and like all of the heavy treatments. But summer, please keep your sunscreen. My current sunscreen obsession is like the Haruharu Wonder like black rice sunscreen.
Hmm.
That's my girl.
Korean skincare. Sounds
Yeah,
great.
like I have one in my bathroom, one in the living room, and one in my bag because we don't leave the house without sunscreen, like ever. Food racks, I live in DC and we have so many great like options. And so I think, but again, my stomach is a little off. So my food rex is my kitchen. It is the ingredients that I have that are healthy and easy to prep. And I've been eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. So eat your fruits and vegetables this summer, people. Because yes, summer bodies are made in the winter, but that doesn't mean we have to slack off and not be healthy in the summer as well. So eat good, take care of yourself, do your hot girl walks, are very important. Breathe, go outside. Don't touch grass.
Touch
My
grass. I
biggest
was about to say
recommendation is
that.
touch grass. My biggest recommendation is to touch grass. So that's what I got for y'all.
We love the recommendations. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Heart of the Matter. We've also linked a lot of the resources that Hadi mentioned in the episode caption below, and you'll find all the resources when it comes to sex education, research, anything that Hadi worked on when she was with Heart.
Yes, and let us know your thoughts on the episode, DM us, comment, whatever. And also check out our Substack Nakhla for our reflections from this episode that'll be published along with this episode. And follow us on Instagram at Heart to Grow if you haven't already for more. So thank you so much and bye.
Bye.
Love you guys.
Bye. We love you too.
Love you too.